let's start with a very short self-introduction. So from Tan to Stefan, 30 seconds to introduce yourself and how you are dealing today or in the recent past with philanthropy, impact investing, and corporate social responsibility. 30 seconds.
It's going to be a recap, but I'm Tan Egeli from Istanbul, Turkey, running our own single-family office. I've been an investment banker for 30-some years, and after that, around 12 years ago, set up a single-family office. Now, for me, as a matter of fact, Kevin did mention that I don't want to call it philanthropy, but impact, because I think it's important to use your capital for the right purpose. Again, some of them is going to be like a repetition for the people who just listened to the previous panel, so I apologize for that. But the purpose of the capital...
just a self-introduction, Tan.
Okay, purpose capital, that's what I mean, impact investment. We focus only on impact investment as a family office globally. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be back. Patrice?
Hello, everyone. I'm Patrice Bonfilio. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Iris International. We are focused specifically on healthcare, and I've worked in the past with many family offices creating fund of one vehicles in order to drive their philanthropic efforts in healthcare.
Thank you.
Hello,
Victoria.
I'm Victoria Kennedy. I'm sure you heard me sing yesterday, O Mio Bambino Caro, so I am an opera singer. Very happy to be here as the CEO of Victorious PR, company I built myself, bootstrapped, million our first year, multi-million now. And we help companies that want to create impact in their business. So I'm glad to be on this panel because I think it's really important to get the word out there in a great way. And there is a way to have impact and not do it in a way that is self-glorification, but in a way that really does help other people and businesses in the media.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to dive very deeply, on the importance of communication and PR. Veronica.
Hello, my name is Veronica. I'm a co-founder of Retreats. It's a platform that supports healthcare and wellness and longevity leaders to create and organize retreats globally. And one of the retreats is a Reset to Source with Her Majesty Queen Diambi, Queen of Congo, where we are organizing retreats for leaders like yourself to actually reset and recharge your batteries. And through that, we also support Queen Diambi's foundation and other philanthropies initiatives to, give something for others that are in need. And very happy to be here, part of this panel, and have amazing discussions.
Thank you, Veronica. Pete.
Hi, I'm Pete Henderson, ex-BBC cameraman, journalist, entrepreneur, adventurer. I'm here to help you protect all the money that you give away through philanthropy. We're the world's first AI-powered verification impact network. So we'll help you see where your impact goes and verify it.
Thank you. Stefan?
I'm Stefan McGuire. I'm a resident of Varanasi, India. I'm creating a sanctuary for people with terminal illness. I'm a grief, dignity, bereavement therapist, and it came out of losing my entire family and finding consciousness and beauty in everything. And Varanasi is an incredible place. It's one of the oldest and continually inhabited cities on the planet. And it's a perfect place for people to come to experience the cycle of birth and death.
Thank you, Stefan. So, Tan, let's bring us in your boardroom. So when you decide to invest in a philanthropic project or also impact investing and social corporate responsibility, what do you look for? Do you have a checklist of what are you looking for in a project? What's your philosophy, you can say?
As a family office, we do have certain purpose, belief, goals, as far as qualitative achievements are concerned. Now, the capital has been evolving. So there's an evolution of capital. In the old terms for family offices, even maybe for offices like ourselves, the main goal was maximizing financial return, all right? And then using philanthropic alternatives to give some back. Now I think this too has been converging. maybe merging. And this is what we're looking into when I say impact investment. What we do is we look at potential projects or investment opportunities where we know that every dollar that we put in creates an impact, not only in the pocket, but in the community, in the social network, and everywhere else as well. Now, the one thing that I'd say is that basically in our investment committee, we redefined return on investment. For us, ROI is not just return on investment, it's return on integrity, return on intention, return on impact. And whenever we do an impact investment, we look and we do our due diligence, and then we make decisions for the future. That's what it.
Yeah, very inspiring. Thank you, Tan. Patrice, I want to introduce another angle in the discussion, which is the governance. So how do you help? How can you help companies to better structures themselves, in order to prevent from, that empty project?
Yeah, that's huge for what I've done. And typically the foundations or the companies are quite grateful that you're coming in and giving them just a buttress of support, because it can make or break their operations. When you think about some of our initiatives where we're addressing burnout and resilience, right? So creating a structure for them to actually provide those resources for their employees. Or think about the tax strategy and some of the really sophisticated ways of going about attaining capital. They appreciate it. So one of the most interesting scenarios we had, we were investing in a biotech company in Cambridge, and the Gates Foundation had worked in coordination with one of the universities, and this company had some IP. So we coordinated with them to use that IP as collateral, and we were able to give them a bridge loan of 60 million, which they needed when they were producing a capsule that could take medications for schizophrenia and AIDS and have it be long-term or time lapse instead of taking multiple pills every day. So the governance, I think, is key there in providing extra strategy.
Victoria, of course, there is sometimes an issue with the companies, trying to do, better. And how can you support companies in order to prevent, like they are just virtue signaling, or greenwashing, we can say, in the ESG angle. So how can you support, by PR? Or maybe on the other case, you can support them, in a crisis management, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. So both are very valid. So you have a company and you're virtual signaling, or there's a crisis. In both situations, you need to control the narrative, or else someone else is going to. I always say this to my clients: somebody's going to tell your story. Is it going to be you, or is it going to be someone else? You don't want someone else to tell your story. I'm going to tell you this because they're going to put whatever that they want. And this is why I think controlling the narrative, even if you're just starting out as a company, is so important. You don't realize that you may get big overnight. You may get your funding and then boom, you're on Forbes the next day. Someone already is going to start controlling that narrative. This is why it's important you start early. You start not just with, oh, look, my company raised all this money. Of course, everybody's going to publish that. You need to say, what else does your company do? How are you guys different? We talk about the virtue signaling. Okay, what are you doing that is different in the market? Can you actually show some vulnerability? Can we hear from the founder himself or herself why it is that you started this business and what is the problem that you are solving? In this day and age, it's not about glorified metrics. People think that's a lot what PR is. Not in this day and age. It's about thought leadership. It's about showing up as an expert in your space. So this way, people can see you as that go-to person and they start coming to you for advice, and that's how you get market dominance.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Veronica, how can family offices help next generation, grow or do better beyond the financial, investments, beyond the financial wealth?
Great question, and thank you. We had amazing conversations here before about how to actually manage your wealth, right? And how to invest in technologies, in different assets in real estate. But I also loved the panel before that talked about human capital. I do think that to preserve your wealth, global families, we should think about investing in human capital. Like also, what if we think about it, now we are like connected as never before, but we are at the same time so disconnected. There are some papers that say that there is 1 out of 4 people in US say that they feel lonely. So I do think that it's so important to invest right now in human capital, invest in the community, invest in social wellness, because behind each and every single wealth management, there are people. So if we invest in people, we will preserve wealth. So that's why we also created retreats and Reset to Source, to support leaders like yourself here, to come, ground yourself, recharge, and then come back to be refreshed and be able to really make decisions better. I am, in the background, I'm a neuroscientist, so I know also from my previous work that it's very important to be relaxed, no stress. I also had a very good conversation with Hadi yesterday, who told me that, don't stress out about things. It's very important to be relaxed, to make better decisions in the future. So I do think human capital is a very important investment.
Thank you so much, Veronica, for your take. Pete, you're a former journalist, BBC, and so we are talking about narrative, PR, communication. How do you see today the narrative, on the philanthropy, impact investing, and also corporate social responsibility? And how can we do, as journalists, as communicators, do better?
So I think we'll all agree that we don't understand what's going on in the world because we don't know what's true and what's not true. Pick up any newspaper, any article, anywhere on the internet, it's got one-sided story, and it's possibly the story that you've read previously, so it's telling you what you think. The AI is telling you what they think you want to know. So I think you have to go back to technical ground rules, which is like Missouri, the state of Missouri, where it says, don't tell me, show me. So we have to get to a point in business decisions through due diligence, through proper analog checking, that what we're doing is correct. And from a communications point of view, I think live communications are better than written. So if somebody stands up and verifies and says, look at me, I'm here, this is what's happening behind me, or I'm going to an orphanage and I'm giving stuff out, or I'm helping people with clothes, I'm actually making an impact, I'm a nurse working in a hurricane, those kind of impacts are verified because they're real, you can see them. So I think actions are far better than words.
Thank you, Pete. Stefan, Tan introduced the return on investment angle, and so how can businesses measure success that goes beyond the financial returns to include, for example, personal transformation and community upliftment?
I learned a lot. I also lived in Santa Monica, and I'm glad I left. I worked with the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation for a number of years, and I worked in Hollywood. I was a producer on a film called The 11th Hour. I was a producer on the film called The 11th Hour with Leonardo DiCaprio, and I worked with Mikhail Gorbachev on International Green Cross. And I worked on these very high-level projects. And what was interesting was building in campaigns that were directed toward direct impact. So with our film, for example, we did a college campus tour where we talked about solutions for the environment, not just complaining about where the world's heading, but actually dialing into what we can do as communities, as individuals. And then already the direct impact is built in. So I've taken that with my property in Varanasi. It's almond level, very high level for high wealth individuals. And the way we can create impact is by building into the cost of staying is given directly to our foundation. And if anyone's ever been to India before, I'm sure a lot of you have, and there's so many ways to give, and it's amazing how much a little money goes towards serving a community. Everything from women empowerment to children education to just the basic necessities. So building into the structure the support mechanism so that it doesn't go as a second thought or an afterthought, but it's actually part of the main gut of the project.
Thank you, Stefan. Tan, would you like to broaden this conversation in order to make the family offices also better understand, from your point of view and your experiences, what are some of the red flags that family offices understand or see in the landscape that make them to step back from some projects or some involvement in philanthropy or impact investment? There are some red flags that you usually see.
Ooh. I mean, the red flags, there's no specific checklist of red flags. First of all, a thorough due diligence is needed. That's for sure. All right. And it's especially in impact investment or philanthropic charitable giveaways. As Pete nicely put out, you need to track it and confirm it in a way. And that creates an additional burden or requires additional resource. Now, from my point of view, I can talk for myself, not for the sector itself, but for me, when I look into a project as an impact investment, I try to get to know people, the stakeholders. I'm not just talking about the shareholders or the people who are doing it, but stakeholders. So from the governance point of view, everyone who involved, the community, the people, everyone. And really they need to believe in what they're doing. They need to have a vision, which I believe in as well. So it needs to be a match, all right? Because look, as a family office, of course we are seeking returns. As an impact investor, of course I'm seeking returns, financial returns, and people ask me, yeah, but this is not philanthropy, it's impact investor. For me to remain sustainable and consistent in my investments, I need to get some return, that's for sure. But I'm not seeking the highest returns because family offices are patient. Our capital is called patient capital. We don't, of course we follow the KPIs quarterly or annually, but we don't have a requirement to exit within the next X years because of the LPs or the structure that we have. We are patient to see the outcome, and that's what's important. I know this is a little bit off of what you asked as far as
but it's okay.
checklist, but look, you have that feeling. You do your due diligence, and when you sit around and being a 30 plus years investment banker, you know if somebody is really about to do what they're telling you to do or not. And then you have red flags on the way as well. And talking to stakeholders, other sector followers, you may also have that red flag. And then if we see it at any point of time, we will walk away.
Patrice, you didn't mention about your book, The Burnout Imperative. That's very interesting. I found it very interesting because we always look, when companies are moving outward, but it's also important to look inward, So how much important is from the impact investing point of view, also the forward thinking from the internal workplace? So how much is that important to do better, also
Yes.
outward?
It's actually a great segue because I wanted to follow on to what you were saying. I give the advice, one way to really track whether it's a company or a foundation that you're investing into, everyone talks to the founder or the investor relations person. Develop a relationship with the CFO. Then you can get a pulse of the sentiment, right? Are things going well, right? Are you getting enough funding, right? Are people happy? Are they staying? Is the entire staff feeling burnout, right? That's a problem, right? That's something that needs to be addressed, and sometimes they're not going to say it in a very formal meeting, but if you have a relationship, if you call a couple times a year, they'll answer your question. So, I think it's good for that conversation to come to the forefront about burnout, and I really do think the workplace has to address it because productivity, creativity, and strategy plummet when people are not set up to be in a resilient environment.
Thank you. Victoria, back, of course, to media, because I like this mix of media and business and impact investing. How can smaller nonprofits use media to scale their funding? So we are not talking about the giants one, but the smaller one.
Of course, that's a great question because there's a lot of companies and people here today who are representing smaller companies or maybe a nonprofit. And so I'm speaking to you when I answer this question because we do get a lot of people in my PR business and they think, am I too small? You know, a lot of people think media is just for the big guys or when you have a raise to announce. And I'm here to tell you, no, if you are small, start. There are free things that you can do. You can get on podcasts. I'm going to tell you, if you post on LinkedIn or Facebook, whatever your favorite platform is, and say, hey, do I know anybody here who has a podcast? I'm looking to be on some. I guarantee you, at least 5 people will comment, I have a podcast, or so-and-so has a podcast, and they'll tag somebody. That's where you start. If that's all the budget you have, that's where you start. You need to be out there in a way so that people know about your nonprofit or your small business, and you can never start too soon. What is this going to do? This is going to help with fundraising. You're all here to look for investors. How are you going to do that? How are you going to be better than everyone else? By being in the media, making sure that you're Googleable, making sure that when I ask ChatGPT about you, I find you. How do you think ChatGPT gets its information? From articles online, ding, ding, ding. And also from podcasts if they rank on Google. And how do they rank on Google? If they're on YouTube. So make sure you have that visual aspect as well. All this is great. I hope you're taking notes, guys, because this is so important and stuff that you can do yourself. Can you hire someone like me to do your PR? Absolutely. But you can also take steps now. Okay, getting on a podcast is easy. Making sure that you show up on search engines, that's really just as simple as getting an interview from a journalist, and it's not that hard, like I said. You guys have great connections. Add all of us on LinkedIn, okay? We all know someone who either writes for the media or connect you with someone who can. I'm here to help you as well, but it's never too soon for media because, guys, that's how you find founders. That's how you find funding. I can't tell you how many stories I have of people sharing an article they ran and saying, you know what? Victoria, I just got funding from it. I got one of my clients in Forbes. They got a 7-figure deal from a hospital, and the hospital contacted them from reading the Forbes article. So that's how you connect. It's never too soon. It's not as hard as you think. And that's what I think nonprofits need to do now, sooner rather than later.
Veronica, because we're talking about the well-being as a core aspect, do you have one thing that you think an enlightened leader, so the next leader should, promote beside, of course, the portfolio strategies and the portfolio investments?
Yeah, I would say, promoting your own well-being and investing in yourself. I say it's good sometimes to be selfish, to invest in yourself and your health, because as we say, health is your wealth, health is your asset. And all of you have been on the airplane, right? So when we are on the airplane, they say that if the emergency happens, you have to put a mask first on yourself and then help others, right? And that's the same in life. You have to take care of yourself to then be able to help others, to do great things, to manage your wealth, to manage family offices. And I do believe that it all starts with yourself and your health. And that's why also, wellness and longevity industry is booming. We are now kind of waking up that it's not also just about living longer, but living longer healthier. Being 80, 90 and still being able to run, like yourself running in the morning, right? So
Yeah,
I do
definitely
say invest in yourself and in your well-being.
Pete, how are you going to be selfish in order to invest in the future of food in a way that we're going to, help, the communities instead of disrupting communities?
So if you want to be a selfish impact investor, then you look for an impact investment that keeps the principal funds intact. So you don't want to lose your money or give it away. You spend your money in such a way that you get, say, a 10% impact return, but you're not doing it because you want 10%. You want to see what that money's done. So if we take $20,000, we can feed 100,000 people a year for 3 years. So you give me $20,000, I'll give you a 10% return and your money back in 36 months. But I'm going to pat you on the back and say, you've just fed 300,000 people. That's a selfish impact investor, but also one that goes to their kids and says, we've made our money work for the rest of the world. It's one that I really believe in.
Stefan, you were talking about sanctuary, as investment. Why are locations of deep spiritual significance becoming the next frontier for conscious capital and legacy building?
Yeah, the way I see it is wealth is not just material. Wealth involves our soul. We're here as spirit beings having a human experience. It's probably a cliche by now, but it's absolute fact. This is not it. There's much more. And there was much more before, and there's much more after. And we're here in the moment. And the consciousness that it takes to notice the wealth in beyond the material is what gets us through the most difficult times. And to include that as an impact, to include that in our view of philanthropy, in the ways that we can give. I've had a really great experience. When my parents passed, I was able to start funding an NGO in Tanzania. They're a group of Catholic nuns and priests of the San Franciscan order. And they have water and food for 8 villages now. And this has been an incredible experience. And I see that as wealth. I see that as building a community so that they have food and water. And this is something that money can buy, but it's more than money. It's giving what we can to others that, and they can't give back. It's not about anything, no return in that kind of wealth. And that's fine with me. I mean, like I said, we're here for a short time. If we're blessed, we live into our 90s, and it's a beautiful experience.
Thank you.
To look at life that way.
Thank you for sharing, Stefan. Tan, looking at broader ecosystem of philanthropy and impact investing, where do you see now the biggest white space or opportunity for venture philanthropy to step in, of course, and fund that, the kind of critical innovation that maybe traditional markets might overlook?
Look, I think traditional markets will look at it too, but the way I look at it is this. Most of the investors kind of seem to be scared of the word impact investment because they think that the return is not going to be promising. In contrary, most of the statistics show that in the last 5 to 10 years, especially, the impact investment funds returns are high, much higher than the index funds that you might have. Now, in an impact investment, you're basically solving a problem. If you're solving a big problem, you will end up with a big return because people will buy into that. So going back to the white area, that is, wherever it's climate, food security. After we have realized the COVID, many things have been changing, as you know. So many different areas. So going back to what I said, the impact investment has a certain return, much higher than some of the index funds. Now, I see ourselves as, or I would like to see ourselves and the next generation of our family office is not the owners of the wealth, but stewards of the wealth. I have my next gen there sitting, so that's why I'm just looking at her so that she hears me clearly. But yeah, we are not the owners of the wealth, we are the stewards of the wealth. And the purpose of wealth is not only to preserve it, but to put it in use for a higher return, for a greater than itself. So that's what I'm going to say. If you have a big problem, be in climate or anything else, and you invest in it from an impact investment point of view, believe me, you'll get a satisfactory return. Again, what I said earlier, family offices, we are patient. Our capital is patient. So we have time. So that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. Patrice,
Thank you, Karim.
what's the biggest white space or opportunity do you see for the impact philanthropy?
I do agree with you in that if there's a critical issue, most likely there's going to be a whole kind of like flywheel of solutions that are needed to bring it home, and also building the community around who's investing alongside you. Right? It's easier to invest and get a return from that situation if you all share that vested interest in that solution being fixed, or that company achieving their goal, whatever that may be. So I really do think that the loneliness epidemic that you brought up, the community building aspects of different groups that are going on right now, really interesting. So there's some that are community-based, that are small scale, and also some that are nation by nation, quite large. So I think investing in those groups that are helping to alleviate some of the mental health issues while simultaneously working on either, sports or health, those things can be really interesting and have a long-term play.
Thank you. Victoria, just your final remark, we can say why all the companies, but also the projects involved in philanthropy, impact investing, must consider PR in their growth strategy.
Yes, absolutely. And I would also add on to what you said, which is beautiful, and you as well, of, when you mention that if you're doing something for impact, because there is a problem and there is a hole and there's people coming up with solutions, who's going to be that person who speaks to the media to explain to the media what the problem even is? How many times do we have impact companies who say, there is a problem, we are the solution? And you say, that's great, but the world doesn't know that this is a problem yet. And that's why talking to the media is so important, because you need to educate the audience of, hey, this is a problem. Did you guys know that there isn't water? We talked about, the different villages, right? Do you know that there isn't water, but there's this company here that's actually providing water? Those are voices that need to be amplified by the media. And I'm telling you, from someone who's on both sides of the media, who's a publicist, I also write for Forbes, Rolling Stone, Fast Company. We are constantly looking for different subject matters of impact in the world. We want to make the world a better place. We want to hear about these companies, but we won't know about them unless we're being pitched, unless we're being approached. So what I'm telling you is, it doesn't matter how small your nonprofit, your impact business is, there is a place for you in the media. The world needs to hear your voice. This is how you're going to get more founders, more investors, and more importantly, more impact. If that's what we want, we need to be the ones putting it out there first.
Veronica, we were talking about metrics before. So how you define the success of the project beyond the financial returns? So what's your metrics?
I do think that it's also doing something for others, for the communities. I loved what everybody here just said about, also being public, speaking about it. But the water, what we are doing with Queen Nyambi as well, is, yes, we take care of the health of leaders like yourself, but also each of you, if you would be part of this retreat, you can also contribute to kids, because, for example, in Congo, there is no water, no clean water, and people are dying every day. And look how blessed we are here, right? So that's why I do think that we should, beyond the financial metrics, we should also leave the legacy and support others through different foundations, help them get clean water, and just help others if we can.
Thank you. Pete, what's the biggest lesson you have learned since you decided to invest your time, your precious time, in doing well for good?
So I think my biggest lesson was the disappointment that I got when approaching Cindy McCain, who is the president of the World Food Programme. I arrived in Italy with my food bars in my pocket, sat down excitedly, gave it to her, said, "You like it?" She loved it. We agreed it had 22 nutrients and minerals and vitamins. It was going to be great for the world. And then I said, "How do I start working with you?" She said, "It'll take 2 or 3 years." I said, "How many people is going to start between now and 3 years?" So the bureaucracy, the lack of change, the lack of support for entrepreneurial new ways of doing things was my biggest challenge. And then I came up with one thing. My wife got a message on her phone saying her blood had just been donated to a hospital. Her eyes lit up. And I thought, if I could send a message to a person saying your food bar has just been delivered, I was no longer a food company, I was an impact provider. So when I changed my business model, which was effectively the same thing, helping starving people, turned it from sales to impact, and with verification. Within a few days, we had thousands and thousands of people doing it. Now we've sent food to 20 countries, 190,000 food bars.
Stefan, what about you? The most profound lesson you have learned since you decided to invest your time?
That we're all one. We are literally all one. When you say I, when anyone says I, and they're speaking from themselves, it's the same I that I am. So to see myself in beggars in the street of India, I'm a resident of India now. I've been for 3 years. And I live in Rome half the time, Rome here in Italy. I've lived in beautiful Italy for 14 years. It is the best country, believe me. And then Varanasi, I'm a resident. And to see myself in a person who has no arms, to see myself in a person, and by the way, in India, people aren't going hungry. There's a whole built-in system where somehow everyone eats. And these are all been, I mean, I could probably speak for 2 hours about all the incredible, eye-opening, heart-opening, mind-blowing experiences. But I would say at the gut of it is seeing myself in others. We're all one. We really are all one.
Thank you. Tan and Patrice, your biggest lessons you have learned, since you decided to spend time for philanthropy, impact investing?
In my time, what I learned is that the most successful family businesses or family offices do not just transfer wealth, they transfer values to the next generations. And the wealth is used for a certain purpose. And what I say is, in one sentence, that every investment we make as an impact investment is a vote for the future. Okay? We should always think about not what we leave to the next generation, but what we leave for them. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Patrice,
Very
so the final remark of this
Yes.
final discussion.
I think the biggest lesson that I learned was that it is as simple as a decision that your life will have mattered once you're gone. Because you can be a very successful investor and you can make very good choices, but the intent that you have when you know that you were determined for that to have mattered once you're gone, that makes everything, every decision, conversation, investment, all slightly different, and I think better for the future and for everyone.
Victoria, do you have a personal take on it?
Yes, I do have something bold to say, but I think if you are in the impact field, philanthropy, you have something important to say. It is your moral duty and responsibility to share that message. That means getting up on stage, even if you're afraid of it. That means getting on a podcast. That means being interviewed. That means getting the word out there and not taking no for an answer. You guys are in this room for a reason. You only need to be one step ahead of someone in order to help someone else get to where they need to be. Collaborate, help others, use your voice. Don't hide it under a bushel. We have light in us, as you said, for a reason. So let it shine, and please let everyone know about the impact. Don't be afraid. That is my calling to all of you.
Amen.
Veronica?
Yeah, I will just add very briefly on top of that, yes, about collaboration and the community and about the network. Like, we are here together. I also say network is your net worth. But beyond money, there's so much more. So leave some legacy, do some good in the world, and stay healthy.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this panel conversation. I hope the audience is the same. So thank you to all my fellow panelists.